Hey guys, back with another Echoing Thoughts podcast, episode number 12. And if you haven't seen episode number 11, you guys got to check it out. It was the best episode so far by far. Had the most views, most listens, and it was just a ton of fun for me. I had two guests, my guys, Shani and Nageling, to just talking Maple. And it was a lot of fun. We got into what got them into Maple, a little bit about their background, how to pronounce their names, uh, Chaos Build, Inherent Build, BA Build, kind of the new meta, Damien, Abslab. We just talked a ton. It was amazing. We had a lot of feedback. People really loved the insight that they gave. Shan he was a great interview. Just him, he really is well thought out, well put, well spoken. I think he thinks things through a lot, and it just really showed in how he kind of explained his theories and going from inherent into chaos and possibly into Absolab. I think Kev Nageling was kind of what to expect from an OG gamer. He kind of just talked about from day one what his perspective was on the game and how his experience in other games helps him in this game. And it was just really engaging how he talks. You can tell he just talks on Discord a ton, just talks to Maple all the time. He was very fluent. He was very concise and efficient with his words. And I think you guys would just have a great time listening to someone else besides me, honestly. And the best part about it, honestly, was that this was really the first time that I saw them and talked to them face to face. It was over Zoom, something like this. And I've never seen Shani kind of in person, so to say. I've seen Nageling through pictures and stuff, but we've never met in person. We've never seen each other's faces. So we just talked over Discord and things like that over voice. So it was a lot of fun, and these kind of are the memories that I'm gonna take with me. It's fun, clearing bosses with them, talking with them on Discord, and doing this podcast. But when you get to do this, kind of just talk like this, talk shop, and have them these like just memorable moments that I'll remember, long after I'm playing this game, right? And it was a lot of fun, and it didn't feel like it was our first time talking or seeing each other face to face. It felt like we've been, friends for a long, long time, and kind of had a natural, easy conversation. And that's one of the best things about gaming overall, man. That's why I keep coming back to this game, quit multiple times, and it's Discord. It's the people, right? The conversations, just talking to everyone, making sure, it's like we know each other's lives without even ever meeting. And if we, try to meet up here and there, but even if we don't, it's like, we talk to them every day. And so it's like we've for years and years, and then just something you can't really, people outside of games just don't really understand, right? And then anyone in the Maple community, it may not be a big one, but it's a tight knit group, and that's kind of what I love about it. Everyone's talking to people nonstop, tagging people, and just there's nothing like it. And that's kind of why I love this Maple community. And I'm glad to do this podcast. I'm glad to do these interviews, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun too, listening to it. And the reason why I'm here showing my face is so I can put this on YouTube. I know a lot of people don't, like podcasts or don't get access to the apps or whatever, the podcasting apps. And so maybe other people can learn, listen, kind of comment if you who you want to have interviewed, who you want to have on the podcast next. And I just hope that it just brings a different perspective, maybe brings a different audience that allows people to see this content, and hopefully I can help you guys in some way. But in this podcast, really episode number 12, it's just answering questions. I get a lot of questions in YouTube, DMs, things like that, and I think um, I really try to reply to all of them. But this is where I'm going to go into more detail, right? And I'm going to kind of finish the video with sort of my tiers list right now. I haven't done one in a while, and I think that was pre Explore Remaster, and it's March 1st, and this Explore Remaster, Sia, Damien, Absolab, the game has changed in 3 patches, right? So I think it's overdue for a tiers list. But before to start this video, the best thing that I've seen was all the Absolabs, right? We got the Dawn War in Asia, got 4 pieces already, insane. We had 2 in NA Scania last week. They same guild, pretty much within 5 minute time frame right after reset, and it was pretty epic. And it's pretty cool to see people pass. One of them was a bishop that wasn't even full necro. It was, I think they had like one or two pieces, and now they have one necro and one absolab. And everyone's kind of debating right now: should they sell the piece, sell the crystals? Should they rip it? Everyone thinks you're gonna fail, which 9 out of 10 are. But like that person took the risk, doesn't even have full necros. Now it's got an absolab, right? One of the first in the server in NA. So awesome, awesome to see. I can't wait to see how many people are selling, how many people are buying, how many people are passing. Absolab is just going to be insane just to see that Absolab piece on the player card. It's one of a kind. It's awesome. It's unique. I love the way it looks. It kind of has that thick background on it as well. Just stands out. And I've been going back and forth about it. If I want to sell it, use it, I'm probably going to end up using it. Just know it's going to fail, but you never know, right? You gotta shoot your shot, and I think that's what I'm going to do. But that was awesome to see. And kind of just questions. The first question that I got on YouTube that I thought was really important, I get quite a bit, is kind of hyperstats, right? And now hyperstats for paladins, but mainly just for any class. And I think it's all pretty much the same, give or take, kind of changing it up a bit. But no matter the class, in my opinion, I think it goes final damage, max damage cap, ADI, and then physical damage or magic damage, whichever route you take. And this is pretty universal. People kind of differ on max damage cap, if they want to use it or not. And I think that, in my opinion, even if you're under geared, right, you're just starting to level, things like that. Maybe if you're not a big spender, right, you're not a big whale, and it's gonna take you a while to cap. In my opinion, max damage cap is still really, really good, because eventually you're going to cap, in my opinion, right? Eventually, even if you don't have any necros or anything like that, you're going to cap with rebalances as you start to progress your gear, get more stats, things like that. You're going to cap even some of your lines. It's not difficult to cap anymore, even if it's like mid-teens, 15, 13, 15 mil cap. That's still definitely achievable with full buffs and things like that for most classes. And so I still think that even if right now you can't cap, it's better just to have that max damage cap hyper, that 1.5 million hyper stats maxed at the get-go, instead of having to try and reset it and spend more money, spend more mezzos trying to roll back into it and max it later on. It's kind of just, you gotta play the waiting game for some people if you're not capping right away. But I think it's well worth it in the long run regardless, because you're going to cap eventually, and it's going to save you that mezzos from having to reroll, because 2 bill, yeah, that's unnecessary. That's overkill, and you don't want to be spending that over and over trying to reroll and things like that. And then for me personally, at my kind of peak level where I'm at, I'm party XP and I'm EXP hypers. So in that case, I saw max damage cap, and I actually went ADI, the additional lines, because in my case, the final damage and physical damage is not as important as having those extra lines, especially as a paladin. Those ADI lines are huge for our damage and our boost when we combine it with our echo lines as well. And that's just me personally. That's the route that I take. Obviously, it differs. You can ask a lot of people depending on your gear, but I prefer at my gear level that prioritizing lines is more important than those stats. Even though I don't cap all of my small lines, I still believe that having that ADI chance and things like that, damage is more important than final damage and physical damage, because I know that eventually I'm going to be getting those final damage stats, physical damage stats, more stats over time as I progress. And I don't want to have to re-roll those ADI lines, because those lines are always going to be there and they're always going to be important. So that's a great question. I hope that helps a lot of people. And then, another question I'm getting recently is, I talked about it as my initial Absolab reaction, winners and losers. It was about the meta changing, right? Changing from EXP to HP and BA build, and people wanted me to kind of expand on that. And again, this is for the top tier, right? This is for the end game. This is for whether you're doing Lotus now or if you eventually will do Lotus down the line, and then eventually Damien, right? Those Absolab pieces, like we mentioned, have a ton of HP. I mean, I think an outfit piece from level 50 Necro to level 50 Absolab is like 6,000 more HP, which is straight to your flames. And that is absolutely, that is a ton of HP that you're going to get. And think of that when you get it into your hat. And then even MP for cape, shoulders, all these HP stats, it adds up. Those raw HP numbers going from, even if you're going from level 40 Necro to level 50 Necro, or if you're going from Mythic to Necro, or if you're going to Chaos. Eventually, all the gear, you're just going to get more and more HP, and that's just going to scale to your flames. And right now, my double Mythic EXP is giving around 1,500 with EXP rings and EXP jewels. So if I take those off, because right now the meta is shifting towards increasing your Starforce Liberation and more HP and MP, like I mentioned, then I'm going to be getting even less physical attack from those flames, the EXP, and I'm going into HP. My HP and MP flames are actually already above that. And I don't even have any level 50 Necro armors. It's just strictly on how they buffed HP and MP for Necro armors in this past February patch, and then Starforce Liberation and all those type of extra bossing set bonuses on top of eventually getting to that next level of Absolab. It's really, EXP has no, the ceiling is already hit, and it just feels like as you progress to get higher and higher gear, HP and MP and is just going to get surpass it and just exponentially, and EXP is just going to hit a wall, and it already has. And people are EXP builder already feeling that and understanding that it's nice at a certain point, but right now it just looks like the end game. It's tough. EXP kind of has no finish line in sight. And then BA is sort of the same way, right? Where BA build kind of has always been really good. It's just a little bit more expensive, right? But with the Absolab gear having the option for some pieces to choose BA, right? On top of Absolab 4-set bonus is 20% BA. Again, it's kind of a no-brainer where EXP is stagnant. BA, you're just going to keep stacking on the BA, and with more stats and more gear, and it's just going to eventually just overtake EXP. And I think, like I mentioned in my previous pod, I think that's how it should be, right? I think BA and I think ESP should not be the best bossing build. Doesn't make any sense. Boss attack, HP even should be top tier. And so I like the route that they're taking, but that's kind of a little bit of background information onto why the meta is changing. Whether it's maybe HP and BA isn't best for you now, but you might have to start looking and deciding and making decisions on when you're gonna, if you want to reach that full potential, you're gonna have to start making some changes from EXP slowly into BA HP. But again, it's really, for me personally, I'm keeping my EXP flames for now, just because I'm pretty high up on physical attack rate. I'm about 47, 48K, depending on my build. And, a few hundred, maybe even a few thousand attack difference isn't as important right now to me as lines or as cap. And that's kind of the last question that I'm going to go into. It's cap. It's CapStory versus StatStory or LineStory. And right now, it's all about CapStory, right? People are hitting insane numbers. The way I look at it is raising the cap right now is just raising that ceiling, raising that potential. And when people think of potential, they think of Guild Dungeon scores, Immortal Guild Dungeon, Guild Honor Battle, right? When you're capping all your lines, that's the ceiling, right? As you raise that max damage cap ceiling, then, right, that's the end game, right? That's the true potential. Now, whether you get there or not with your stats at this moment is another story. But in my opinion, right now, it's definitely kind of a question that I ask all the time. Debating between something as simple as, like I said, EXP jewels, EXP rings, the Kerning Tower ring, the like a gold leaf ring, and versus the bossing rings from Semprus and Chaos Horntail, just for that extra Star Force liberation and just for that extra cap. And right now, it's looking like even if I get 50K more cap by switching out those rings and losing about 1,000, 1,500 physical attack and some crit damage and things like that, it's feeling like cap is just king right now. And that's why Mythic Flames, changing that up, changing my build isn't as important to me right now as it is for trying to get more rating zones, trying to increase my cap and trying to raise that ceiling. Now, that may not be for everyone, right? It kind of depends on where your base level of stats are and how your class, how easy it is for you to cap. But I would say for majority of people right now, with the increase to necro physical attack and just the increase to stats in general, it just feels like everyone is focusing on cap and kind of breaking that ceiling, kind of raising that ceiling in order to do more damage. Because cap is the gap between me, 19 mil cap, versus someone with 23 versus 25. It's just, I mean, it doesn't take, a genius to figure out that just by itself is such a huge gap that we've never seen before ever in the game before. We've never seen a 6 mil gap between me at full necro versus a full necro at level 50. And that is just, that's the meta we're in. Cap is king, and it's looking like it's going to be that for a while. And then, but if you have any more questions, I kind of want to put this out there, like I said, so you can see YouTube. You can comment in YouTube. I can post this on YouTube, and you guys can, make it a little bit more personal with me here. You can see my face, and then comment below who maybe what questions you have. I can go into more detail in future podcasts. You can also email me at echoingthoughtspodcast@gmail.com if you have questions there. You can DM me on Discord, and also just leave a comment who you want me to have as the next guest. I have some people lined up that I'm really interested in, but it's always good to hear other people's feedback and who you guys want to see in the podcast. So going into tiers right here, we got my tiers list. This is starting from F tier all the way up to S tier, and this is just my opinion. And I know a lot of people have different tiers list. I got this tiers maker from Gemini, so shout out to him. Thank you for this. I made one back pre-Explore remaster, and this is my current one, March 1st, 2023. Everything that I know, kind of break it down, and I want people to understand that this is not just straight DPS, right? This is not just strictly bossing as well. My tiers list is sort of encompassing everything, and it's not. Before I used to focus on how good their auto battling is, their mobbing. I kind of kept that out of this one. This is more focused on the big solo content and the big bossing content. So we got like Lotus, how they fell in Arc. How are they in soloing Hard Magnus, for example, or in Hard Magnus in general? Covert guild content, so Immortal Guild Dungeon, Guild Honor Battle, and then Mulan. These are the big ones that I focus on when I made the tiers list off. And so we'll just kind of get into it. F tier, Battle Mage, Kinesis, Cannoneer. I just don't have enough information on them. I haven't seen any top tier players play them, kind of showcase their talents. And there's probably a reason why people don't main it. They're just kind of in a tough spot right now. Battle mages are more support, and they just don't have enough support to even offset their damage, their lackluster damage per se. And doesn't seem like anyone's investing too heavily into these classes, and kind of sad. I really like battle mage. Uh, I hope they do something about these classes, but these are just the F tier. Um, and honestly, S S tier is kind of its own class in my opinion, but it's not far from that A tier. And B and C aren't terrible. Like these classes, like Angelic Buster, Aran, Buccaneer, Blaze Wizard, Kaiser, Thunderbreaker, C tier. Honestly, I just had to put classes in this tier. I couldn't just overload A and B. These are, they're good, not great, right? I've seen Angelic Busters do really well in Lotus. They have pretty good survivability. Um, they actually are pretty good in Arc as well, Arans as well. I've seen we had their first EU had their first Aran clear in Lotus, so shout out to them. I think it was Midnight TV. Um, NA Scania had their first Buccaneer clear Lotus. Shout out to my guy Fallowin, Kevy. He's a beast. He actually did pretty well DPS wise too. So I think they're in a pretty good spot. It's just not enough showcase, in my opinion. People are re-rolling off of it, disappointed with the lines, and even Buccaneers got remastered, just kind of in that C tier as well. They have Time Leap. That's about it. Gemini's Blaze Wizard. He's top tier as it gets. He says Blaze Wizard are underwhelming. I'm not gonna argue with him. Um, Kaiser's tough spot. Kaiser. I mean, a lot of Warriors are really good. Kaiser just one of those. I think they're below Iran, to be honest. They're badass. They look cool. Their skills are cool. Just underwhelming damage wise overall across the board. The survivability is really good, but they don't really. They're just a C grade. They're average. And then Thunderbreaker, really flashy, kind of fluid class, combo class in PC Maple. Just really hasn't translated to MapleStory Mobile. Sadly, a lot of low skill percentage. They just can't catch up in terms of the cap and the meta, and they're ho hum. And then B tier, and I want you guys to know this is sort of in the ranking of how I'd rank them as well. So we got Corsair, Xenon, Marksman, Fire Poison. Those are kind of the bottom of the F tier. Again, some of those are explorers, probably stronger than I think. I think Fire Poison mages are really good. They're gonna excel in Damien if they get when they get there, because in KMSM, Fire Poison mages are doing really, really well. They're they're a huge part of the first clear, but that's a different game that we're playing. And Fire Poison mages, I think they're good. They're good. Their dot damage is good in Lotus and in Arc, but it just doesn't seem like in the other content, which I'm putting into a factor. They don't have good survivability. Um, I don't see them doing too well in Mulong, Culvert, things like that. So, B tier, bottom of the B tier, Marksman, doing good bossing damage. I think they just stand there. But again, their survivability is really poor. Their mobility isn't great. I think they have a teleport now, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe in Lotus they're actually doing better. But again, I don't, not a lot of representation, so not a lot of data. But I think there's a reason why, if you're going to play a marksman, you probably should play a wild hunter because of where I got them in the tiers and how good they are. But marksman's definitely got stronger with the Explorer remaster. So I don't think it's a shame to be in the B tier, honestly. I think anyone in this tier, this B tier, with funding and cap and stats and mechanics in their class can actually do really, really well. I think, but again, it's you got to choose, right? Not everyone can be a top, and this is where I got them in the B tier. Xenon, Corsairs, not much to say. I think Xenons are pretty strong too, but again, you can say everyone is strong in these tiers. I got the two archers next, Pathfinders, Wind Archers. Archers, they're good. I mean, Pathfinders are turrets. If they stand there, they can do a ton of DPS. Lotus, they're a little lackluster because of the way their skills work. It's a little clunky. You can't move and attack like Wind Archers, so they don't perform that great in Lotus. In Arc, they're really strong. Culvert, they got some pretty good scores. Mulong, I mean, I think they can clear floor 44, but I haven't seen it yet, I don't think. Um, but I do think Pathfinders are stronger than people think, but just the survivability aspect and the mobility in the end game bosses like Lotus, maybe in Damien, they'll be better because of their range attacks. But right now, in this current meta, feels like they're just middle B tier. And then Wind Archer, same. Damage is lackluster. Survivability is really good. I know they have a floor 45 clear in Mulong. I know in Covert, they're actually pretty good too because they're constantly moving and attacking. So that's why I give them a slight bump above Pathfinders, but their damage is sort of middle of the pack. Um, and then I got Demon Avengers here. I moved them up a bit. One of the Demon Avengers Legacy DA cranked out 47, 48 build DPM in Lotus. That's, I mean, you can't, that's 40, that's almost 50 bill. I mean, that's almost top tier, right? That's, you can't, I mean, that's as good as it get. He's 20, I mean, he wasn't, I think he was around, he not 25 mil cap. So I think Demon Avengers, you know, they're kind of in that, they're in a pretty good spot. I mean, you obviously need cap in order to maximize the class because they cap so easily, but 48 bill ain't nothing to sneeze on. Then mechanics, I've heard they're really good as well. Sepher, the Wind Archer, has a mechanic. He's podium. He's saying they're really good. They're underrated. They got the final damage party buff as well. If he says they're good, I have to bump them up as well. Top of the B tier, that's, you wouldn't expect a mechanic to be there. And I think that kind of goes to show how they're actually not as bad as you think. Bowmasters, Explorer, Archer, they got their teleport. Their bossing is pretty good. I think the survivor is pretty good. They got their up jumps, things like that. But again, they're I probably should I probably would say they're right there with the other archers. You could kind of flip flop them whichever you want. If you have Bowmaster behind Wind Archer and Pathfinder, I wouldn't argue. Um, and then B tier, Demon Slayer, top of the B tier, Demon Slayer. To be honest, they could be A tier, but that's really just because of Rubido. I mean, he's the outlier, the exception to the rule. His numbers are kind of skewing the numbers per se for Demon Slayers. They're not I mean, he's cranking out insane arc, Lotus, Guild Dungeon, everything. He's breaking the barriers, but that's just, I mean, maybe that's why I got him on top of B tier. I mean, that's the potential of the class, right? That's what we're talking about. Um, even though he's the outlier, even though, they can't use their V1 skill because it's not as good as their Demon Impact, their fourth job skill. I mean, the numbers don't lie sometimes. And even though, they deserve a buff, the numbers are showing they're pretty solid. They got good burst. Got good 1 minute burst, 90-second burst. Their damage is good. Maybe they lack a little bit of their iframes, the survivability in things like Mulong, in things like Covert, in things like Lotus. But if you just stand there, the raw numbers kind of speak for themselves. They got good damage. And then A tier, a lot of classes, a lot of really good classes. Even the B tier, a lot of those classes are well represented. A lot of players play them, and it's just, I would say there's a solid 20 classes that are competitive. You can see top the charts in any sort of content, good in their own ways, with proper funding, with proper mechanics and gameplay. And so that's, I mean, that's the state of the game right now. It's hard to argue with that. I got Night Lords got a little nerf in Explore Remaster. They're not the greatest in Lotus, but in Arc, still cranking. Guild Dungeon, still cranking. Covert, see them clear Mulong. Night Lords are really good. They're not going anywhere, even though they're not arguably the top thieves anymore. Still really strong, insane burst. They'll be around. They could easily move up. They could easily be above Nightwalker, probably in most people's eyes. Don't sleep on them just because people are complaining that they got nerfed. They may have got nerfed, but their numbers are still up there. Mercedes, shocker. Kind of surprising, but I mean, I've seen video and they're doing good damage in Lotus. They've always had good burst in Guild Dungeon. They just don't have the representation, right? Their unicorn's sick. They're going to be good in Damien. I've heard they have a lot of potential. Very underrated class, just underrepresented. But In Enosis, they got a big time Mercedes out there doing big time damage, and I think they deserve to be in the A tier for sure. And then you got more explorers, right? Ice Lightning Mages. I play with the best one in the game. He's in my Lotus run, and he carries us in phase one. His mobbing, his damage is right there up with me, right there with the best. He's not single target for his stats. Isn't Could be better, right, for the class, but they're still just so good, in my opinion. Um, yeah, heroes honestly could be higher just because of their crit res, their puncture, crit res, 10%. Crit res is hard to find. Their damage, their bossing damage is really good. They're good across the board, especially now in Covert and Mulong. They can tackle those bosses, those content with better, do higher numbers with the crit res. But in my opinion, what they lack is that survivability, right? In that solo content, they don't have an iframe that answers like a damage reflect. Um, they don't have a stun. And, when you're nitpicking at the top of these top tier classes, for me, the crit res was amazing. It's nice, but it doesn't pass these other classes, especially because in Lotus right now they really struggle in phase one, um, and it's hard to catch up in phase two and phase three with these other classes. Even with crit res helps everyone. And the Nightwalkers in a good place. I played with some of the best ones. World record holder Nightwalker. In my past Lotus run, he beat me. He beat our top Ice Lightning Mage. Nightwalkers are still really good, and with more crit res, if you have a Wild Hunter or a hero, if you're critting more, their clones are just going to hit even harder. So don't sleep on them. Just like Night Lords, they're a thief. They're not going anywhere. Thief story. Um, Now they're not the best thief, but the fact that we got one, two, three, four, five thieves in S tier, A and S tier. I mean, it is what it is. That's just facts. Then you got the two mages, stick them together. Lumi, Evans, kind of back and forth. They're just they're just always up there. Mulan, Covert, phase one of Lotus. Their burst is really good in Guild Dungeon. I mean, they're overall really good. The only reason really what separates the A and the S tier is crit res. Or it's just that top end damage. You'll kind of see like Evans are the same way, right? Very great in all content. Their burst, their burst is good. Their mobbing is good. Their survivability. They have iframes. They have teleports. Great class, fun to play. Dawn Warriors struggle a little bit in phase one because they can't jump and attack and use their main skills, but probably arguably top two burst in the game. Guild Dungeon scores are off the charts. Obviously, that's going to translate to Guild Dungeon, Arc, Lotus. They're still doing good damage. Can't wait to see what that Dawn Warrior with the 4 Absolab pieces, 29 mil cap, what kind of numbers he's cranking out. But yeah, I'm sure it's going to be insane. I'm sure it's just going to break the game until people catch up. But he's on a tier of his own right now, and it's been a really good class. The only reason I don't have them at higher is because they don't have heals, they don't have iframes. They got a nice teleport here and there, but their survivability is tough. They're squishy, and in solo content, things like that. As a tank, even holding aggro, it's tough compared to these other classes. Shadower, Explorer, Thief, amazing class. Love the class. Really good consistent damage. They're doing good in Covert. They have a little bit crit res. They can clear Mulong. The only thing is they don't got that burst, that Guild Dungeon burst, but it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good. Mobility is insane. Survivability is insane. Damage, consistent. They got a lot of options. Fun to play. A lot of options, counters to different classes, mini iframes here and there, long iframes. Just love that class. DKs are the same way. They are People put them in the S tier. I wouldn't argue. Their damage is just all the Explorer classes. They're just a tier above. If they're doing burst damage, their burst damage is a tier above. If they're doing consistent damage like Shadowers and DKs, they're just a tier above. That's just the way it is. Their survivability is insane. Their mobility, their they have long iframes. They have good mobbing for phase one too. Seeing people do, they can clear Mulong, floor 45. They have good covert scores. DKs, I mean, people talking about Pallies as the number one warrior. DKs are no slouch. Some people got them over Paladins. Um, and Blasters, again, the only reason I don't got them in A tier, they don't got good iframes. They don't got stun. Nitpicking at this point, their burst is obviously the best in the game. Their damage is obviously the best in the game. But they don't got crit res, and that's really what it comes down to in this S tier. I haven't seen anyone do great clear Mulong with the blaster. I could be mistaken. Their guild dungeon scores are just, best of the best. Covert, I'm sure they're okay, but yeah, arguably the best DPS in the game. And the reason why I don't have them S tier, I have DBs above them, is just because DBs better survivability, better mobility. They can actually help in phase one with the bombs as well. I don't think blasters can, and their burst is, I mean, you got a DB, they can clear phase one on their own. They can top the damage. They can hold aggro. They're guild dungeon. They're covert. They're Mulong. They just got all the options. They got all of the buttons. They have a ton of different button suppress counters to use in different situations. They can do it all. Not much to say. Everyone knows DBs are insane, top tier. Sia, I have up here. Now, I've seen some Lotus charts with Sia top in the charts. Their guild dungeon is right up there, over 1 bill as a world record. 100 mil guild honor battle solo. They got crit res, they got survivability, they got mobbing. Beautiful class. I mean, I think people just don't understand. They're really, really good. I can't wait to see, there's not a lot of people playing them, but the few that I do see really showing out and really funding it are getting rewarded. Seems like a very complicated class, but they seem to be reaping the benefits, and the numbers are, I think they're up there. And just strictly because they have crit res puts them in this S tier, but their damage is not anything to sleep on. And then kind of rounding out the top 5 right here is Wild Hunter Shade. The reason why I got Wild Hunter 5th and Shade 4th, split. Shade's survivability better. They both have crit res. They're both, Shades are more important, feel like they're more important in Lotus because of that split skill, because of their usefulness in phase one, because of their crit res, because of their, survivability. They have iframes, the teleports. They're just well-rounded. They have their own self-heals. I've seen the Shade has the world record overall for any class in Mulong. They're really good in covert as well with the crit res and the split and things like that. So Shades, it's funny, they kind of took a step back, it feels like, in Lotus DPM since Explorer Remaster. Kind of explorers are, especially in my party specifically, explorers are kind of beating the Shade, our Shade, which was our top DPS prior, but it's still really good in Arc, still really good in Covert and Mulong and all of the content. Maybe not as, still actually really good, not terrible in Guild Honor Battle, Guild Dungeon. So Shades, number 4 class. Wild Hunters, the utility, their burst, their damage, top tier, can compete with anyone. I think it's just the survivability for me that pushes them down 5th. But the fact that they have 1 iframe on a 2-minute cooldown and they're on the S tier, best archer by far, my opinion. Crit res, that's just the meta. That's just what it is. Then we have the top 3. Really no surprise for me if you watch my previous podcast where I have these classes ranked. It doesn't really change. Bishop, Phantom, Pally. Now Bishop, their damage is up there. Post remaster, I've seen some top the charts. I've seen some dude mid-30s. I'm sure some are hitting 40s in Lotus. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. Your single target damage is really good. Mulong, they can do their covert score, obviously with the crit res is 6K plus. Bishops are a really good class. And this is not even talking about all the utility, all the support, all the options that they have to help the team in general. They're good in solo content. Their survivability is top tier. Shell, Benediction, so useful. Just top 3 class. There's nothing left to say. You need them. You need them. You can't do anything without them. Phantoms and Paladins are the same way. I think people still don't understand how good Phantoms are in DPS. They think they're middle tier, things like that. I mean, I hear it from in A1 Asia. I mean, they got a Phantom that's doing 7 mil Mulong clears in floor 45, doing 60 bill plus DPM and Lotus, topping even some of the best DBs in Asia. I mean, maybe it's one, but that's the potential, right? That is the potential that we're looking for in these classes. How good, with the top tier gear, how well they perform compared to other classes. And on top of that, Phantoms, can range. They can do as useful as any other class in Lotus, right? They can be support, you can DPS, you can be top DPS while also being support, res, time leap, shell in arc, just. And then in Mulong, obviously their survivability is insane. In covert, they do really well with they can take threaten as well. Maybe in guild content, they're not that good, but that's nitpicking. Still, people don't understand. People think I hate Phantoms. Dude, I'd probably main it if it wasn't for Paladin. It'd be Phantom or DB. Those would be my next 2 options if I were to reroll to a class right now. I think Phantoms are really good. And maybe I give them too much credit. Maybe people just don't want to hear that because there's a huge Phantom community. Got the number 2. And I can admit when my class is the best, Pally, hands down. The burst is insane. Their damage is insane. Obviously, their support, they can res. Synchro, the survivability is really good. They got their own self heal. Topping, they're number 1 in covert. They can clear floor 45, no problem. You can top the charts in arc, short fights, long fights. They're mobile. They're fun to play. They're just the best class. I mean, I hate to say it. Like I played Pally when it was strictly second page, threaten mule, right above bishops as far as damage. That's when I started maining it before they got good, before they started doing damage. I kind of like playing the underdog, being able to beat classes, do more damage than other classes that were considered overpowered. And now my class is overpowered, and people are calling for nerfs. I don't know how to feel. I get defensive about the class. People don't understand that they haven't been good for that long. All these other classes have been good for a long time, but it is what it is. I got to admit, when they're good, I can't deny it. They're in my opinion the number 1 class in the game. They just have it all. They can be the best in all content, and I think it says that for me at 19 sub 20 mil cap that I'm competing with Nightwalkers and Shades and Ice Lightning Mages that all have 23, 25 mil cap, that my damage is better than them in Lotus because of maybe not my damage, but my survivability, right? It's just the class is so good, right? It's so balanced. It's very consistent. It's not hard to play. And yeah, I'm not going to deny it. But that's my tiers list. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree, disagree? Be respectful. Don't be respectful. It doesn't matter. I'd love to hear your opinion. Who do you guys number 1 class? Who do you disagree? Who else you got in your S tier? Who is the worst class? I don't know. Comment below what you think. Appreciate it. This is fun. I love doing this. Tiers list. It's always changing, right? Just a few months ago, I could have said like last month before this February update, my tiers list would have been way different than what it is now. A lot of changing, a lot of just new data coming in with more classes, people getting more cap and stats and things like that, and reaching their limits. It's just awesome to see. But I love doing this. Hope you guys had fun. Let me know if this is something you guys want to see more of. Kind of just face, face record, whatever it is. See my face, tiers list. be a little bit more, post this on YouTube. Or if you guys just strictly like the podcast, I'll post it on both, see what you guys like. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, wherever you're seeing this content. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment below what you think. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.